we came up with 4 C's. First of all, we want to care for people in our company. How can they be the best version of themselves that they can be, and how can we help?
In order for cultures to really thrive and survive, we have to persevere.
Back in the early days, we didn't use the culture word. We used the word environment.
Salespeople in our business, they understand taking care of the customer. And really the biblical word there is love. Do you really love your neighbors you do yourself? And do you look after their interests just like you look after your own?
I'm telling you, this might be hands down the best definition example of caring I've seen in a very long time.
Listen to your heart, and from there, take a step. I always try to tell my children when they were younger, like, when you go through a difficult time, think about a takeaway. What did you learn? What did you learn, and how can you apply it to your future self?
Welcome to the Culture from the Heart podcast on the From the Heart Business Network. In a business world where employees and customers crave authenticity and trust, hosts Larry Levine and Darrell Amy are on a mission to find and showcase heart-centered executives and the companies they lead. You are about to hear an inspiring conversation with a visionary leader that's bringing heart into the workplace, empowering employees, serving their clients, and uplifting communities, all to create true success. This is Culture from the Heart. The movement starts here. Let's begin.
Welcome to Culture from the Heart. I'm your co-host, Darrell Amy, here today with Larry Levine, and we're joined in the studio by Kip Miller. He's the Chief Executive Officer at Eastern Industrial Supplies, a regional distributor of pipes, valves, fittings, and commercial plumbing supplies, headquartered in Greenville, South Carolina. Kip, it's great to have you here today.
Well, it's certainly a pleasure. I thank you for inviting me. Our time should be fun.
I guarantee it'll be fun. Thanks for joining us, Kip.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we get started, you know the question that every guest on the Culture from the Heart podcast answers, and that is, what does Culture from the Heart mean to you?
Well, it means everything that maybe I didn't experience in my early days of beginning in 1980 in the business world. And certainly business was done a lot different back then. And it was less about caring for the individual and more about what have you done for me lately? And just really not caring about the individual as far as their success or whatever. They were more concerned about the business success. And so being a young businessman and eventually having people report to me, I internalized all the decisions, the results of the decisions that were made, because the people would share those with me. And I just felt those really embodied in my heart, my whole being. And I thought, man, if God ever put me in charge, I would do some great things that they're doing, and there are things that I wouldn't do. And instead that I would do these things that I just felt like were lacking.
Oh, this is so good. Darrell, I know we're going to have a fantastic conversation, but I want to go back to a little bit about what you said, going back to the 80s, is as you started to think through this as far as, hey, this isn't that type of culture that I think I can thrive in. Where'd the influences come from in you looking at this going, you know what, if I'm ever in this position to really affect culture, I'm going to change it? Who are some of your influencers, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, born and raised by really great people, and they, just our family, the people we went to church with, the people we interacted with were all tremendous people. And there's always a world outside the one in which you grew up. And I certainly experienced that when I graduated from college and then entered the workforce. I had gone to work some with my dad, and he had a route that he ran, merchandising, and just a lot of great people. And not that the people weren't great that I worked with. It was just not the environment. We called it environment in those days, not culture. And, when I first started in the early 80s, I was just so excited to have a job and being able to make some money, because I went basically 8 months without a job and just did odd jobs. And so landing my first role at Eastern Industrial in 1980, 6 months after the company was founded, I was just ecstatic. And there were 3 primary owners. After a while, 2 bought out 1. And I was in a supervisory role, and I just really was kind of in between the leadership of the company, the ownership, and the other employees. And so when decisions were made, I had to communicate those decisions, and I had no control over it. And so I felt it, they felt it, and I was that middleman. And that's when I just started storing away things in my mind. That if I were ever in charge, here's how I would do things. And so I didn't have a master plan. I didn't have any written notes. There were just things in my mind, and they were embedded into my soul. So that's why culture from the heart means so much to me.
I love it. And as you're sharing, I'm self-reflecting back to my journey and remembering some of those early days in the business world. And there was not a great environment in my case either. And it just makes me think, Kip, about how many people are coming into our organizations and are, especially the people that are beginning their career, are coming into organizations, and what they find there, good or bad, is going to set the course for how they proceed in their career. And I think a lot of, it's almost instructive just to go back and go, okay, well, what did I not like? What was, what rubbed me the wrong way about those early days in my career? And what could we do to do things different?
Yeah, well, I understand the situation those gentlemen were in when they started the company. Scraped together just enough money. They did second mortgages on their homes. They all had families, and they put their necks on the line to start Eastern. And so I understand all the financial pressure. The early 80s really were right there, the threshold of a recession, the Jimmy Carter days, and those were some really, really hard days. And so I get it, and they're thinking a lot. They're thinking a lot about the bottom line. And from that, I was just the beneficiary of feeling all those different emotions. And really, I tried everything I could do to find another job. But again, we were in recessionary times, and I couldn't. And I discovered the word perseverance. I think God was allowing me to persevere because he wanted to build my character, and he wanted to shape my character for what was to come in my life. So it was all part of his plan.
Oh, this is so good. And I'm so glad you brought up the word perseverance, because in order for cultures to really thrive and survive, we have to persevere, because there's going to be some times, there's going to be great times, there's going to be not so good times, but it's those that persevere are going to prosper.
Well, that's where we learn the most about who we are and about whatever job that we're doing. So when things are really good and you're on the mountaintop, you're not learning a whole lot. But it's when you get down in those valleys, sometimes in the stream, in the riverbed, and you feel like you're just trying to swim upstream, that's when you're really learning. You're storing it away, and it's really becoming emboldened into who you are. And it comes from your heart about how you're going to venture into the future and use what you learn. So I always try to tell my children when they were younger, like, when you go through a difficult time, which we all do, we think about a takeaway. What did you learn? What did you learn, and how can you apply it to your future self?
Great advice. And you build muscle when you're swimming upstream, don't you? That is so, so true. Well, stay tuned. We're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to talk with Kip about the story of the culture and how it's unfolding at Eastern. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. At Culture from the Heart, we believe that great leaders put their people first, leading with empathy and purpose. That's why we're thrilled to partner with Learn It, a global leader in learning for over 30 years, to bring you an exclusive offer: 45 days of free, unlimited training for your team with a minimum of 5 participants.
This isn't just about skills. It's about creating a culture where your people feel valued, supported, and empowered to grow. Did you know that 94% of employees are more likely to stay at companies that invest in their development? Culture from the Heart means giving your team the tools they need to thrive, not just for today, but for the future.
Learn It's courses help your team master essential skills like communication, collaboration, and emotional intelligence, all foundations of a people-first workplace. It's about fostering resilience, connection, and growth.
Don't wait. Visit learnit.com/culture to claim your 45 days of free training and start building a workplace where your people and your business can thrive.
That's learnit.com/culture. Start enhancing your learning culture today. Welcome back. We're going to pick up where we left off with Kip Miller, CEO of Eastern Industrial Supply. Kip, when we started this conversation, you were talking about what culture from the heart means to you. And I picked up on something you said. Back in the early days, we didn't use the culture word. We used the word environment. And I think that's a very interesting aspect of culture. How would you see, if you were to use some words to describe the environment that you're creating and working to create at Eastern, what words would you use when thinking about that environment?
Well, I think about caring. And really the biblical word there is love. Do you really love your neighbors you do yourself? And do you look after their interests just like you look after your own? So I think the big word for me is caring. We could add all kind of other characteristics around that. But, do you care? And so salespeople in our business, they understand caring about the customer, taking care of the customer, right? We have to take care of the customer. Okay. And what we try to do is say, hey, let's first of all take care of each other, right? We're at work most of the time together, and we can have a great community here. We can work on building a world-class culture, which we're not there yet. But you can take good and you go to better and go to great. So it's got to start with caring, and really caring about not only what you do, but who you are and what you do. And who are you doing it with?
I really, really love this. And I want to keep continuing down this road, caring, Kip, is how do you describe it? How do you, Kip, as a CEO, how do you cascade that caring message down so it goes from Kip Miller to your mid-level managers all the way down to, the people at the lower end at industrial? But how do you cascade this caring message down so everybody gets it?
Well, I think early on, back in 2002, I heard about a chaplain ministry, and we could provide chaplains in the workplace. And as we began to grow, our people needed that. They needed some shepherding. We moved out of Greenville, and we couldn't get together in Kip and Kim's backyard and have a Saturday afternoon fun time picnic, but cookout. But so the chaplains came in, and when they rolled out that program, they called it Eastern Industrial Supplies Cares. So I'd never seen the cares attached to a company, a business, or a sports team. Now you see it all over the place. And then chaplain program went so well that after a few months, a year went by, we said we need to do more. And I just became really thirsty and hungry about how we could build this out and structure it. So we came up with 4 C's. First of all, we want to care for people in our company. How can they be the best version of themselves that they can be, and how can we help? So then we want to say, okay, whatever community that Eastern goes into, we want it to be better. So we want to care for our community. And that means that we encourage our branch leadership and our people to be involved in some kind of goodwill project that's going on in their marketplace, and do it together. And we give you time off to go do it. And so then, thirdly, we want to care for our country. So we've had a lot of natural disasters since 2002. It seems like much more than before. So we started a giving fund, and our employees can put money into that fund, as well as company. And then we have money available right now in case there's a natural disaster that we can donate money to. When Hurricane Helene happened here recently, it was right in our backyard. So here in Greenville, upstate Western North Carolina. So we were able to ship bottled water and generators and things like that. The money was available, and we had some things on the shelf and ready to go. So that's the third C. And then the other is cultures. So we have 4 C's. And so cultures include everyone else around the world. And we entered into a unique partnership with an indigenous group in Tanzania, as well as a local nonprofit. So we have 3 partners in this role in Tanzania, and we helped partner and built an orphanage from the ground up. God had just kind of laid that, in front of us and said, this is something you could do. And so we participated with them, and I went over in 2006, and, we were sending $20,000 over at a time. And at that time they had iPads so they could take a picture and send it back. And so I had a material list written out in Swahili. I didn't know what it meant, but I acted like I did. And so he would have to take pictures of the material, and I'd have to see progress before I sent more money. But we did that, and the company began to be the primary provider monthly of the funds they needed to operate once it got built. So I wanted to keep that in front of our people, that, hey, you're working for something bigger than selling pipe, valves, and fittings and commercial plumbing, right? If we're successful, then we can continue to help these people. And at that time, 36 children. And some of those orphans that were picked up off the side of the road. We even had one come that had umbilical cord still attached. So, we tried to share those stories. We have teams that go over to Tanzania, company-led, company-sponsored teams. And if I can ever get our associates out of this country into a third world country like that, they come back changed people in so many ways. And they're just better people. And we don't do it so they'll work harder, but so they'll really know, hey, we're in this for the long haul. And we've now been in partnership since I think it started basically 2006. So 18th year, that's a long time.
Wow. Larry, I'm just blown away with this story. And just almost speechless. I mean, there's such a beautiful story here at all these different levels, from the individual all the way to the entire planet. And really, I mean, this is more than just giving to the March of Dimes. This is like putting boots on the ground and people and materials. Just hats off on this. And I see the environment, how the environment of caring is emerging. I want to go back to the employees themselves here. And you talked about one of the first steps you took was to put a chaplain in. Now, I think a lot of us, I think of chaplains in a police force or in the military. What does it look like to have a chaplain in your company?
Well, these are part-time chaplains. The people we partner with, all their staff have advanced ministry degrees. And so they have ongoing training that company does. It's Corporate Chaplains of America. And there's many other good ones out there as well. But what they do is they're training them about 15 to 20 different areas, from aging parents to troubled children to finances. And there's a spiritual element, but the chaplain just builds a relationship with the person. So they don't pay anything for it. It's free. It's voluntary. They do not have to participate. We make that clear. And it's confidential. The chaplain will not share anything outside the conversation unless they have been approved to do so. But also, there's legally things that, excuse me, they would have to report if certain things were said. But other than that, they know it's confidential. So we work through our chaplains. We love our chaplains. We view them as a part of our team. Whenever we have team meetings and I visit branches, a lot of times the chaplains are there in the meeting, and they receive all the information that all the other associates do. So we've had chaplains perform weddings for our people. We've had the chaplain be by the bedside of a spouse with cancer. They will hold care days, care sessions outside the workplace. They don't want to be disruptive in the office, so they come by and speak. And if you have a need beyond what a few minutes conversation can have, they'll schedule a 45-minute session after hours, and they'll meet with you personally, coffee shop or in your home. And so we were able to utilize that, and we've even had some of our key leaders in our leadership team utilize the chaplain services for some of those off-site visits. So it's something that we want people to be well physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Beautiful. Oh, Darrell, I'm telling you, this might be hands down the best definition example of caring I've seen in a very long time.
No, no doubt. No doubt. This is a fantastic conversation. And we're going to take another quick break to hear from our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to ask Kip what advice he would give to other leaders who are listening to this going, wow, I want some of that in my life. So we'll see you back here in just a moment. At Culture from the Heart, we know that hiring the right salespeople and leaders for your company is about more than just resumes. It's about finding individuals who have what it takes to succeed. That's why we're excited to offer candidate assessments from Selling from the Heart to help ensure you make great hiring decisions for your sales team.
Based on data from surveys of over 2.2 million sales professionals and sales leaders, these assessments benchmark your candidates against the core skills of top-performing salespeople and leaders. You'll gain unparalleled insight into their potential, uncovering whether they have the mindset, abilities, and behaviors needed to thrive in your organization.
It's not just about filling a role. It's about ensuring that every sales hire aligns with your culture and contributes to your success. Don't leave your next hire to chance.
Visit sellingfromtheheart.net/hiring and discover how candidate assessments can help you build a winning team. Make your next hire with confidence because your business deserves the best.
And we're back. Let's dive right back into this conversation about culture with Kip Miller of Eastern Industrial Supply. Kip, as we went into the break, you were just sharing some of the story of what's unfolded at your company. Is a really, really beautiful story. I know a lot of people are listening in and probably asking the same type of questions I'm asking is, what advice would you give to other leaders who are listening into this and thinking about developing a caring culture? Where's a great place to start?
I would just say look inward. What are those things that you're feeling that your organization needs? So we all have those thoughts. What does the organization need? Particularly when it comes to your associates, how can you help them be the best version of themselves that they need to be? It's like a great coach. If you go back to playing on ball teams, you ever had a coach? Coach had a way of firing you up that you would just want to run through a wall for the coach. Why was that? Because sometimes he yelled at you and worse. And then, but you knew that deep down he cared about you and he displayed care and he built a relationship with you and he wanted you to be better as a ball player and as a person. And so that's why we would run through the wall. And that's what we try to emphasize is how can we be the best coach that we can be? Because people need help. I haven't been many places, but I have been to other places around the world here in this country. And one thing I've discovered, I've never met a person who did not want to be cared about. Now, I've met people that I thought didn't care, but basically we have that, we're born with the need for somebody to care for us. And that never really stops throughout our life. I have elderly parents, they need care. And so it just never stops. And I would just say, listen to your heart. And from there, take a step. Take a step. You might say, well, Kip, boy, man, chaplains, wow, if I do that, I think the biggest hurdle is for leadership when it comes to wanting to care about people is you think, well, now I'm going to be living in a glass house and I really need to up my A game because people are going to be watching me more than ever. Well, the truth is they're watching you anyway and they already know your flaws. So if you do something that's going to care for people like providing chaplains, now they're viewing you in a different light, right? Like he doesn't have it all together. But he's being willing to help me. And the other thing is just be vulnerable. We, as leaders for so many years, my CEO years ago would do this. Like, so what are you doing? He said, you hold your cards close to the vest. And then I went through a personal development class and I found out, my personality type and some of the challenges around that personality type. And I didn't want people to see that I had flaws. They saw them anyway, but there was this facade. And I realized that when I'm listening to other people speak, when they really When they have my buy-in is when they tell me something that went wrong in their life. And I thought, man, that's powerful. And we don't have to tell our deepest, darkest secrets, but we can say, I don't have the answer. I don't know why this happened. I don't know why I did that. I can be better. You help me. And that just resonates with folks, that you're now a real person, and you're not above them or whatever people are thinking about you. So I would just say, take a step, whatever it is you think you need to do. One of the things that has really helped us display care, going back to the question previously, is how do we do that? Well, one of the first things we did was we started an emergency assistance fund. Now they're called CAPS, Corporate Assistant Programs. And there's a great nonprofit in Alpharetta, Georgia. In Tallulah Falls, Georgia, Helping Hands. And they facilitate CAP projects all across the country with some big company names, as well as smaller folks like Eastern Industrial. And we partnered with them in 2002. And so our associates can contribute through payroll deduction into a fund that's for other associates. And the reason I did that was I wanted to share a caring, overarching, no matter where you were in the Southeast working at Eastern, you could participate in helping somebody else that has issues. So we have 8 or 10 people that serve as advisors on a council. I don't serve on it. The leadership team doesn't serve on it, but it's done by associates, and they make decisions. We have guidelines, written guidelines, and they can help each other. And so, from there, we started 2 other funds. One is like a nonprofit fund, and one's a fund that you can contribute directly to the children in Tanzania. So just take a step. Maybe it's a CAP program. Maybe you do that. And but for us, we have just taken a step at a time. I had a guy one time challenge me early on in the early 2000s. He said, "Hey, I want you to come up with a CARES plan at work." He called it a ministry program. We call it CARES. And he said, "I want you to incorporate it into your strategic plan." And so I said, "Really? We can do that?" He said, Yeah. So he said, "Here's 100 something ways to do it." So he gave me a document and showed me how to do it. And I just said, "Man, we can do this stuff, and it's okay. And people like it and accept it." And I said, "Yeah." So what we did was we just started taking one step at a time, doing one thing a year, and attach a new initiative around those 4 C's I told you about. And but it never would have happened if I hadn't have took the first step. And that was for us with the marketplace chaplains.
Oh, Darrell, this is what's just dancing through my head right now, and it's care and looking inward. And I just have to play on this just for a moment with Kip, and Kip, just hang in there with me. It's all going to make sense. In order to care for others, you got to care for yourself. In order to help people look inward, you as a leader must be able to look inward. And so just real quick before, this is a terrific conversation. I'm just curious, Kip, what's looking inward to Kip look like? Walk us through that as a leader. Yeah,
it's having a clear view. For me, it's spiritually with my faith, but I use scripture. That gives us guidance. Like, how does a person know right from wrong? So for me, that's according to scripture, right? That's the basis. That's the foundation for me. And without that, I wouldn't be able to look inward. If it wasn't for that, then I would probably be in jail right now, to be honest with you. So it's the litmus test. It's the guide that I use. And, it's just we're all on a different journey spiritually. And for me, it's, I'm on a journey, and I'm continuing to try to grow and get better and in those areas. And, I have a long way to go, but we all have to have some kind of basis for right versus wrong.
I love it. I love it. Well, Kip, I'm just reflecting back in the beginning of this conversation. We were talking about being a new employee coming into a company and starting to go, wow, when I have the opportunity, I'm going to do things a little bit different. And the story you've unfolded here today is truly inspirational. And I know that if I were a young person starting my career, I'd love to walk through the doors of Eastern. So what an honor to meet you today. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your heart with us. This has been amazing.
Well, it's been an honor and it's been fun. Thank you for the invitation.
It's our pleasure, Kip.
Awesome. Larry, wow, blown away. What an incredible story. And I love the advice at the end first of all, caring. It's one thing to say you care. It's another thing to actually do something about it. And, when Kip said, hey, just take one step, decide on what's one thing we can do. And he said, over the years, we just kept adding things in each one of these different spheres of influence, the 4 C's. What a masterclass in how to take caring and actually put it in motion, take it from the heart to actually executing and operationalizing it. Beautiful.
No, absolutely. First word that comes to mind, Darrell, is intentionality. Mm-hmm. There's so much intention behind this. There's also consistency and discipline. That's what I love about this conversation we just had with Kip.
Amazing. Well, thank you for joining us today. Thank you to everybody who's liking and subscribing. And most of all, sharing this podcast. We are committed to bringing you inspirational and informative interviews with some of the most interesting and amazing CEOs, people like we've met here today. If you know somebody who fits that bill, go to culturefromtheheart.com. We'd love for you to nominate them. We believe that culture is the heartbeat of every organization. And as Kip has reminded us, it's all about caring. So thank you for joining us today on Culture from the Heart. Until next time, lead with your heart and watch your culture thrive.
Thank you for joining us on this journey to discover heart-centered leaders shaping extraordinary company cultures. To access a leader guide with notes from this week's episode, simply click the link in the show notes or visit us at www.culturefromtheheart.com. Do you know a CEO who's built a culture from the heart? We'd love to hear their story. Head over to www.culturefromtheheart.com and click the Nominate Your CEO button. Until next time, remember, great cultures start with the heart.